Welcome to this week's episode of the Nerd Chatter Podcast, where two nerds sit down and chit-chat about some nerd things that we find throughout the week. Last week we talked about the San Diego Comic-Con. A lot of juicy stuff in that episode. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Garrett. How are you?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing today?
Not too bad. A little tired, sipping on some coffee. Just
Very
kind of
good.
scrounging through some stories that we could round up throughout the week. Not very much. We mentioned it in our last episode. Just not very much news is going to be rolling out this week after Comic-Con because so much drops throughout that weekend, you know. But we got a couple things to chit-chat about.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to mention, I sat down and I watched every single Lord of the Rings film.
You did this week.
Extended versions, every single one of them. I watched the original trilogy and then I watched The Hobbits.
How is The Hobbits?
I mean, you know, we might have to have a discussion. Maybe we could do a little something for Patreon or sit down and do another, like, you know, round table discussion between the two of us.
Okay.
But, you know, I mean, you know, if you can get past the first, like, half of the first film, then the rest is okay. But, yeah, we had talked about that in a previous episode. I just wanted to mention that. But, yeah, that was something that I was able to partake in this week. But, you know, as always, we start off the show by going over some free games or heavily discounted games that we find throughout the week. And a little dry this week, but we do have a big one, in my opinion. Garrett doesn't agree, but lawn mowing simulator on the Epic Game Store.
That's not a big one.
Free until August 4th. And it is what it is.
Hold on.
What?
I mean, I told you this earlier. If I want to mow my lawn or pretend to mow a lawn, I'd rather just go outside and mow a lawn.
It's like 1-to-1 speed too. Like
that's awful.
I mean, it's like farming simulator, you know, when you're like tilling a huge crop, like, you know.
Not everybody can go farming though. Practically everybody can go mow a lawn.
I can't go mow a lawn. I can't hop on like a riding. I've never been on a riding mower in my life.
I'm sure if you went to a lawn mowing service and be like, "Hey, I really want to do this. Can I please do this? Don't pay me for it." They'll let you do it.
I mean, I don't. I could just download this free game over here on the Epic Game Store and be able to partake with John Deere and all those other brands and such.
Yeah,
I'm just one of those. I like simulators. I am a nerd for simulators, like hardcore simulators. One of my favorite simulators is Gold Rush, the game based on the TV show.
That sounds right.
I mean, play it. It's super hardcore. It's super enjoyable. It's all technical, whatever. I'm just saying, lawn mowing simulator, that's like Pog, you know? You got to go down on that if you're into that type of stuff. But yeah, that is the only game that I did run across this week was that one over on the Epic Game Store. And this week, we have a few stories. Nothing too crazy, but I do have a first one to go over here, which is somewhat interesting. Tomb Raider bidding war erupts as MGM loses movie rights, which is you know, I'm not sure how you felt about the film that came out. Did you ever see that?
Nope.
I mean,
I know.
Alicia Vikander, I think is her name. Like, she just didn't give off like Lara Croft vibes. You know what I mean? Like, she gave off like badass chick vibes for sure, but not like Lara Croft. And like, with the Lara Croft games being kind of like rebooted a few years prior, like the feeling was like very fresh, you know, this new character design and stuff like that. But you know, like, the movie was okay. It was very basic. But I wrote a little blurb here. An exclusive report from The Wrap, MGM has failed to meet the deadline to retain the Tomb Raider IP, which has caused a bidding war in Hollywood. It's reported that MGM had until May of this year to greenlight a new installment of the Tomb Raider film franchise or suffer losing exclusive rights to utilize the property. Currently owned by Embracer, the most recent purchaser of Crystal Dynamics, and the Tomb Raider IP, which was previously owned by Square Enix. The article states Alicia Vikander, who starred as Lara Croft in 2018's Tomb Raider, is no longer attached to the project. Insiders add it's complete a reboot, and there are no casting or director commitments. Rights reverted to the game company, then the game company to Graham King's GK Films made a deal to rep the IP. And although the article is a bit hard to follow when talking about this most recent information, implies that it's a fresh slate approach to the future of the film franchise. The article wraps up by stating, in the company's Q4 and full year financial report, Embracer CEO Lars Wingefors said he sees great potential not only in sequels but also in remakes, remasters, spin-offs, as well as transmedia projects. And then MGM declined to comment. So very interesting. I mean, that is something that, I mean, Spider-Man suffers the same requirements, you know, in regards to their original deal with Marvel. Did you ever play the games? Were you ever into the Tomb Raider games?
I played one on N64, I think, a long time ago. But I mean, that was really it. I never got into them.
Was it N64?
I
forget. I played a few of them, and then the new ones, if you can come, those games drop for free randomly, and that is a strong recommend for sure. Like, the new games are super good. Very, very fun, you know, somewhat linear single player experience. And, you know, I mean, they were kind of going in the right direction with the newer film and the approach they were taking with it, but it was kind of just like one of those cookie cutter Indiana Jones wannabe type approach, you know, films. And it kind of like puttered, you know. I think it made like just under 300 million. Not sure how much it costs to make. I might be wrong with that. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but another interesting thing that you see is kind of the rabid response from Hollywood in regards to swooping up this video game franchise. You know, I mean, we're talking a fairly decent track record in terms of like fandom. You know, like people just always want more Lara Croft content, Tomb Raider stuff. You know, so. I could see it. You know, maybe we'll get like a live action show. You know, maybe we'll get like a series or something like that. Hey, maybe Disney will buy it.
I don't think Disney will buy it.
No.
If anything, I mean, Paramount's been pretty key on getting video game rights, and I mean, them and Netflix might do a bidding war. Who knows?
True. With Halo, right?
Yeah. So Paramount has the rights for Halo. I mean, did you watch the full season for Halo?
I skimped out on like the last like 3 episodes because the show sucked.
So
it did.
Okay, so the last episode,
it becomes Halo, you know. Like,
well,
I told you explicitly that I just hate it when shows drag you along through some crap, and then at the end they give you a little bit of what you want to keep you coming back. I hate it.
Well, here's the thing with that series. It is the way we know Master Chief in the video games origin story. Everything that happens leads up to Master Chief becoming who we know from the video games.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, that's the point of the character. He was supposed to be this guarded, silent type, brooding character that you tagged along on his adventures, and like you did. You know, it was just. I don't need to see him, like, you know, banging space wizards and like starting the Fall of Reach and all this other, you know, like, I don't need all that. You know, like, the games are fine enough. I just wanted to see him just, we fall into a situation where he has to do something against the Covenant, you know, some type of you know, like a video game based storyline, you know, like maybe the Flood is attacking and stuff like that. You don't have to worry about, like, I know the whatever. I'm not going to get into it. There's so much about it. I just didn't like how they approached it, and then the fact that I see his face like 95% of the time of the show is just like irking me. So,
I mean, I don't think Paramount is brave enough to pull a Mandalorian where we see his face like, well, what, 3 times.
It looks so good though. Like the
I know,
suit looks so good. I just want to look at it, and they just like, nah. You can look at it when he slowly puts his helmet down on a table. You know.
Yep.
I don't like it.
Like I said, I don't think Paramount was brave enough to do that, at least in the first season. I think they're going to do it for the second season. We'll see. Anyways, going back to like who might be in the bidding war. Like I said, Paramount's definitely up there.
HBO maybe.
HBO might. Do they have any video game franchises that they're running right now though?
I don't think so, but I think Lara Croft definitely kind of falls within the wheelhouse of a stylistic choice, you know?
Yeah, and I mean Netflix.
No, I know they will, and I know they are.
I mean,
no.
they have Witcher, right?
They have Witcher, but Witcher's. I mean, I watched all of Witcher, and it's fine. I wanted more, but I don't know. It just seems they seem untrustworthy. I have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
feeling
yeah.
like this next season is going to be like super hokey and like completely cheap compared to all the other ones because they're tanking as a company.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know. I don't know. I don't
Netflix
want
is
them.
definitely tanking.
Yeah,
But like they at least have a track record of pulling something together with video game franchises.
yeah.
Um, so I mean, I
I
think
mean,
those are the two most logical choices.
also taking into consideration what Embracer would be considered. What would it actually consider? It's like Netflix. You had what in Q1 of 2022 they lost almost a quarter million subscribers, and then
I mean, that's a drop in their bucket, though.
in Q2 they lost 900,000 subscribers.
Okay, that's a puddle in their bucket.
It, I mean, like, dude, we're talking chunks. Those are chunks. Those aren't. Those aren't. That's just gonna. It looks like it's gonna get worse. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
I'm just saying to the company Embracer, it would be. It wouldn't be advantageous to to go with Netflix unless they are willing to drop stupid money, and give some type of rights for distribution. Otherwise, to the creators, like
yeah.
something, because Netflix just doesn't have the bidding power these days. I don't think.
Well, I think Netflix does have the bidding power because they have a stupid amount of money in reserve. Um, so I think that would be the only thing going is Netflix would offer a lot of money to draw in new subscribers.
I mean, they're burning through it though. I mean, that's the thing with like Resident Evil and like Death Note mentioned last week, and God, I think they're gonna do a One Piece show if I'm not mistaken. That might be somewhere else. It might be Netflix, but they like to take these alternate media and adapt them, and they do it bad. It's like HBO or not Paramount. I'm on the fence about Paramount, but HBO seems like classiness. Like seems like they could actually run with it.
We'll see. So next up on August 5th, we have another Lego Star Wars movie dropping. It's called Summer Vacation. Um, it is said to, or so here's the synopsis so we can talk about it. It is looking for a much needed break from stormtroopers and TIE fighters. Finn arranges a surprise vacation for his friends Rey, Poe, Rose, Chewie, BB 8, R2D2, and C3PO aboard the luxurious galactic star cruiser the Helicon. But Finn plans to have one last hurrah together quickly goes awry when he's separated from the group. While searching for his friends, he encounters three Force ghosts, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Leia Organa, who each share their own unexpected stories of
Oh,
vacations gone wrong,
oh God. Oh,
helping him to understand that holidays are more about than just having fun. So, let's talk about this.
oh. I mean, it's Lego, right? So I
Yeah, it's
mean, it'll
Lego.
be funny, but oh,
Yeah. I mean, have you seen the other two? There's the holiday special Lego edition, which is nothing like the original holiday special. They make fun of it a lot. It's
yeah.
kind of funny.
Of course they would. They would have to.
Then they had the Terrifying Tales, which is like their Halloween edition. Like, I think it came out last.
And they're Lego.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't. I
Yeah,
have to watch
they
that
both.
this year with the baby.
Baby would love that. Um, they both take place after Rise of Skywalker. They both feature Rey, Poe, Finn, and Rose as their main characters. I mean, the holiday special like had this weird time traveling thing where Rey and Finn were going through time and like would pop into like different scenes with like Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Yoda, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it was kind of hokey, but like I said, they made fun of the holiday special quite a lot,
Yeah.
which made it worthwhile watching. And the other thing that these do is they fix one problem that I have with the sequels, which is Finn being a Jedi. He gets trained to be a Jedi in these. So
Does he really?
yeah,
I mean, they did our boy dirty in those movies for sure, and like
yeah,
that's totally Ryan Johnson's fault. Like, it
oh
is
yeah,
110% Ryan Johnson's fault that he was underutilized because he was set up at the end of the first film. Like, okay, like he's gonna have the motivation to follow this path, like naturally. That's what that's what
well
it should be.
exactly. Well, in all of the surrounding Star Wars media, like the comic books and everything, and the books were all playing at the fact that Finn was force sensitive, and like even back when he was in the like the Imperial, or not the Imperial Academy, but getting trained from the First Order,
Yeah.
he like stood out as one of their like the best trainees because he was force sensitive. So like all of that stuff, like him not being a Jedi in those movies, it made me really
Yeah, I mean,
upset.
it's just not right. It's not.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean, that's another thing, and that's a whole. You hear it, the subversion of expectations, and those are the type of ones that you don't want. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
it just like it undercuts other things that I don't know. It just to make into some blabbering love interest that kind of falls into situations,
yeah,
and can handle himself is like so cheap. You know what I mean? Just imagine like a Ray and Finn full blown like lightsaber battle against Kylo at the end of like the third film.
yeah. I
Like
mean, that would have been great.
it would have been dope.
And here's the other thing, like with all, like the subversion of expectations and everything, like literally all of the other Star Wars media was saying that and hinting at that Finn was going to be a Jedi, and
Yeah.
it just didn't happen. And you're right, Ryan Johnson definitely ruined that one.
Yeah.
But it was just
He didn't
no,
goof
no.
it up. He ruined it. Like
Yes,
he
yes,
intentionally did it, out of hubris and just, I know Star Wars better than you. Like,
yeah,
just you.
Yep.
I mean, I'm actually interested in these Lego films. Like I said, I got the baby who likes to watch Star Wars stuff. So,
yeah,
I'm just sit down and watch it. It's kind of goofy, but my thing is, it's like with Netflix buying. I forget the name of the company, but the ones that do the Lego films, are they going to have? I mean, Disney, they'll probably still have, Star Wars Lego stuff, obviously, but Disney's going to have to be paying Netflix, essentially, right?
It depends on what type of licensing deal that studio already has to make
Yeah, I'm just
the
saying
Lego Star Wars.
the profits still go to Netflix by this point. You know what I mean? It was just they've positioned themselves as
Yeah,
the ones to benefit from it.
If they're acting as an independent studio that is owned by Netflix, it still could be a thing where Netflix is not involved, especially if there's an existing contract.
Yeah.
Because if there's an existing contract, they have to honor that unless there's some type of escape clause.
I mean, I could see Netflix being like, well, it's got to be on Netflix, and then Disney being like, no, like, no. And then there just being issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it would be like, okay, well, who's Lego, gonna side with who they actually allow make their content and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be interesting, but as far as the content, like I'm looking at the picture, it's Darth Vader in a tank top. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
Absurd. Absurd. But yeah, I'll give it a watch. I mean, it seems pretty interesting, and I like the Finn aspect.
Yeah. Well, and it's Finn seeing the Force Ghost because he's been being trained
That's
as a
just
Jedi at this
so
point.
absurd. It's just like leave him alone, let him rest. Like what a horrible existence.
Yeah.
So I got an interesting story here, and I'm gonna have to read this one because it's so like convoluted that I had to write it down and kind of write it out. All right.
Okay.
Buckle your seatbelt. California sheriff orders raid on Indiana Batmobile garage, allegedly as a favor for a friend.
Pause. Why in the heck is a California sheriff planning a raid in Indiana?
Let me get to that.
Okay.
So a prominent real estate agent by the name of, I'm going to leave it out, but he's from Atherton, California, is in a bit of hot water this week as ABC 7 News covered an incident involving him and a custom auto shop from Indiana. Fiberglass Freak is a custom vehicle shop from Logansport, Indiana, who DC has deemed the only licensed maker of the official replicas of the 1966 Batmobile. Sam ordered an official made-to-order Batmobile for the price of $210,000, paying off $170,000 up until the time of the incident. After 8 months of ghosting the shop for failing to make a $20,000 payment, the team decided to move his project to the bottom of the list as they worked on a number of other projects. Or I should say just orders, because there was more Batmobiles. I think 8 others. Once Sam finally got in contact with the shop, he was irate to find out his vehicle would be delayed nearly 2 years while the other orders were met. He decided to pay off the remainder of the amount, but remained furious over the incident and proceeded to file a complaint with Atherton, California police, who informed him that they would not bring criminal charges. He also filed a lawsuit in San Mateo County Superior Court, alleging breach of contract and fraud, but in March, a judge dismissed the case. ABC7 reports a source from within a San Mateo County Sheriff's Department informed them that the realtor asked his friend, Sheriff Carlos Bolanos, to intervene and met the request by sending a lieutenant, sergeant, and 2 deputies to Indiana to raid Fiberglass Freaks, where they would inform that they would be confiscating everything related to the purchase. Although they stated their intentions, they only ended up taking 2 files of documents, leaving the partially made vehicle behind. They read owner Mark Ruckop his rights, took him to jail, and detained him for an hour before letting him go. He later found out that they had acquired a warrant for his email, contacts, photos. They froze his bank account and then charged him in California with 2 felonies, one for obtaining money by false pretenses and the other for diversion of construction funds. That's an interesting one. Public funds from San Mateo County paid for 4 airline tickets, 3-night hotel stay, presumably 2, meals, and overtime for the police officers. When asked for comment, the sheriff failed to respond, and when asked about his availability, his office stated that he was taking a month-long vacation, which comes just before his term ends, having recently been voted out as sheriff. When being interviewed, the accredited business owner and church minister said, "I was horrified. I've never gone through anything like that ever before in my life. I am on the side of good. As a Batman fan since I was 2 years old, this was completely opposite side. I love 66 Batman, and Batman always stood with the law." And then the reporter goes on to say that he has gotten contact with the lawyer of such and such, and that they would be sitting down for an interview and all that stuff. So this is a developing story. It's dropped yesterday. Discuss.
That guy is going to be able to sue that sheriff's department for a lot of money and win.
They took it to like lawyers, and they're like, "This is absurd. Like, this has nothing to do with California whatsoever. Like, this should be in like a small claims court in Indiana, like not some superior court claim for 2 felonies in the state of California, you know?"
Yeah, like I said, this guy's going to be able to sue that sheriff's department for a lot of money for breaching constitutional rights.
Yeah. I mean, from a face, perspective, like from our perspective, non-legal, you would assume that this would just be tossed out. But we're talking about a fairly wealthy individual, and obviously has some type of influence, right, in his community. How far that reach extends, the goal to assume that you can like bully somebody in a completely different state, is pretty absurd. But yeah, when I read this, there was a video actually that I ran across on YouTube, and then I went to the article. Yeah, it's just crazy. I was like, what? Not to mention the Batmobiles are like 100% accurate, like full-blown flamethrower coming out the back and everything. The little electronic doodads and the horn and, everything about it 100%. It takes them years to make, So, I mean...
This is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I found it interesting. It's a little bit of nerd news, because one of us is being attacked, by some surfer real estate agent from San Jose area is going off, and I mean, the fact that he was willing, that he put up the $170,000 is pretty crazy. And I guess by like your basic standards, anybody would consider that enough to like freak out about and possibly like overreact about. But the manner in which it went down is what's crazy, It's like these cops, right, like got flown out, and they sat down and, or I'd say sat down, but they went in, right, and they gave this guy a warrant. They started rummaging through everything. They only took a couple files. They left the $170,000 of actual product sitting there, even though their supposed intention was to take everything involving the purchase as evidence. They only took those couple files, but to find out that they have a warrant to go through your email and your phone and your contacts, photos, and your text messages is insane. For what? Like, dude.
Well, the fact that the sheriff was able to get a warrant for stuff that was happening in Indiana while he was in California is complete craziness to me.
Yeah.
Like that in itself, like, were more political favors made with the judge to make that happen. Like,
I mean,
that's mind-boggling.
Speculation, of course. We're definitely all this is presumed. We're not professionals here. I'm just saying, like, it's just insane too. They stop your bank account. Like what's that all about? Like they literally, like, the way they framed it was that this guy just like snatched 200K from somebody and is flying off, to, like, he's gonna leave the country and he's gonna flee. It's like this dude has 9 $210,000 projects lined up in his garage. You know what I mean? Like, he is not hurting for money. People want what he has and what he gives, and he's the
He's
only
not going anywhere.
No, he's the only licensed person by DC themselves to actually make this car because of how perfect they come out. So
Yeah.
it's like,
And okay, so this guy owns a business that's successful, and he's a church minister. He's
yeah.
he's not a flight risk. He's not a risk for anything.
And I totally believe him too, because if you, I mean, the way I quoted him, it's obviously not as believable. But you listen to him, he's like flabbergasted. He's like, I've never done anything bad in my life. He doesn't mention he's a minister. It's the reporter who's like, and this guy's a minister, by the way. I watched his sermon on Facebook yesterday. So he is just a kind-hearted, hardworking business owner who earned his status. You know what I mean? And at the end of the interview, he does state that he does feel that it's like an attack on his character, and his standing in his community. And it's like, as a minister, that's important.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm not religious, but in the sense of like community and stuff like that, like there's no reason to go just because you didn't get what you wanted in time because you ghosted somebody on a project. Let this be for anybody, because I've done graphic design and web design in the past and stuff like that. If you don't respond, you're getting left behind a little bit. Like, you're gonna get moved down. Like the cogs still roll. They're not gonna stop because you don't respond to an email in time. You're going to get moved down. So you got to be on it. These people have things to do, and they got progress. They got to be, time is money. You know what I'm saying?
Well, exactly. I mean, this realtor guy failed to make a $20,000 payment and goes to the shop for 8 months. Of course, they're going to pause the order.
Yeah. And he's like, I mean, he didn't state it, but you can obviously tell he's like, the way he starts off with it, he's like, we didn't hear from him for 8 months, like we almost 9 months. He knew exactly how long it was, so he probably went to his emails and like, look, I emailed this guy like 6 times just in this month alone, and this was when I started contacting him and blah, 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 and it's like, they take notes of that stuff. Cause like, you got project orders or whatever terminology they use in their business, but you have the orders, right? And whenever you do something, you make an addendum to that order, right? You put a sticky note on it, you put a note or whatever, contacted so-and-so on this date, no response. Contacted again on this date, no response. That thing was probably a flip book of Post-it notes, you know what I mean? I can see it in my head exactly how this went down. It was probably just he's got 8 more he's worrying about. This one is not a big deal, it's just going to get moved back and become one of the others, and this guy just blew up, you know what I mean? So we're talking like full-blown, like spoiled brat status on this one. But yeah, I just thought this was absurd.
I hope he doesn't get the car in the end. That'd be great.
I
He
mean,
doesn't deserve it.
the guy's sitting right in front of it too, and it's like the body's up, the frame's up, probably maybe no engine in it, maybe, I don't know, but the body wasn't painted. There was some detailing that wasn't done and stuff like that, but you see the other guys working, you see other completed cars, you see the commercial they have for it, super clean. Obviously it's before my time. The 66 Batman is a little bit too goofy and campy for me. But it's iconic. And if you want that vehicle and you're willing to pay for it, then so be it. It's like, I mean, I can't talk. My wife's uncle had the Jurassic Park Jeep, which he still does, but just recently sold his like 100% film accurate DeLorean, his time machine. You know what I mean? Like, these people do buy these things, and if I had the time machine from Back to the Future, I'd probably sleep in it, to be honest. You know what I mean? So, I'm all for people buying stupid stuff like this, and if anything, I'm a big advocate for it, but you can't treat these people like this. These people are artists. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just some shop. They're not just in there banging metal. Like, they're fabricating something to perfection, and you show that respect. This is how it is.
Yep.
You know?
Well, and stuff like this takes time.
Yeah.
Like they don't just like whip it out in a day.
Yeah.
I mean, like I think you didn't you say it took like 2 years, 3 years to make these things.
I mean, he got pushed back, and it would take 2 years to complete. Which I mean, probably not. Probably like under a year, maybe a year. It didn't mention it. Not that I saw, but you know, you are talking about a substantial number of them being done at once, and that's just going to slow down overall production. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, for the business, it's probably better because they get more done in less time. But for individual customers, it is probably a lot longer than it would be if he was just working on like that one. You know what I mean? So yeah, probably a year and a half. I wouldn't doubt it. Like I said, these things are perfect. It's really perfect. They got like a flamethrower out of the back, you know, like movie accurate doodads that are like fabricated specifically for the car and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my gripe. Is I see people that do this type of stuff as artists, people that have their little custom crews where they build their own DeLoreans over time. Artists, you know, people that build lightsabers. Artists, like people that build models, even modeling, like artists. If you're willing to dedicate your your hands to a task, and something comes out the end that's completely unique in yours, or a symbol of what you can do as a person, then it's art, you know. And to come at this guy like he's just some landscaper that hasn't shown up in 2 weeks, you know what I mean, is absurd. It's his fault. He goes to the parade, but it's your fault. So
Yep.
we're pretty ahead of schedule here. We're about a half hour or so, so I got a little extra story here that I can kick in. This isn't really a story. This is just kind of an interesting tidbit. But Russo brothers say Jon Favreau said, "You can't do this," when finding out that they would kill off Tony Stark in the Avengers Endgame.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, they could, and yes, they did.
yeah. Well, this is how the conversation. It's a cool little video actually, because they go over like Arrested Development and like Gray Man and other movies that they're doing. Mm-hmm. I like how they are as like directors and like artists people. You know what I mean? Like they're not completely up their butt, but like at the same time they still talk about their craft with respect. So I recommend it. We'll have the link down in the description, but I'll just go over what I wrote here. In the most recent segment for Vanity Fair, director-brother duo Anthony and Joe Russo were shown a number of fan-favorite scenes from throughout their film and show careers. Aside from a lot of great technical filmmaking information and insider details, the brothers recall a moment they spoke with Jon Favreau after he had just finished reading the in-game screenplay. Although Jon didn't seem upset about the decision, he was certainly indifferent. Understandably so. The character meant a lot to him, as we all know. And he helmed the ship since the beginning. So when referencing the discussion, Anthony Russo stated, part of the pressure came from Jon Favreau, who called us up after he read the script and said to us, "Are you guys really going to kill off Iron Man?" Joe then follows up by saying, "He did, yeah." And I remember pacing on the corner of the stage on the phone with Favreau, trying to talk him off a ledge. Because he's like, you can't do this. It's going to devastate people. And, you don't want them, walking out of the theater and into traffic. Anthony states, we did it anyways. And to John's credit, he hadn't stepped through the process in the way that we had. So we wouldn't have the same reaction, or we would have had the same reaction if someone had dropped that. With Joe then saying, we felt like we had earned the arc. We would feel redemptive and emotional and uplifting and hopeful, even though he had sacrificed his life. So basically, Jon Favreau, he was like, he's just he's so clingy onto that character. I mean,
well, that's his baby.
You can't have Happy too thoroughly without Iron Man. You know what I mean? Like they did it in
Spider-Man:
Far From Home.
Yes.
And he works as a character and all that stuff, but it's always hearkening back to Iron Man. He's always thinking about Iron Man or saying something about Iron Man, or some type of passing of the torch type of situation with Happy. So naturally he's going to feel that way. And I guess from an artistic perspective, I keep saying artistic in this episode, but from an because filmmaking, art, it's from that perspective, it's a very emotional. Like you're enthralled with that scene, and it is not as devastating as the end of Infinity War, of course, but it has that gravitas to it. It's a solid scene, and they kind of recall and go over the numerous times they've had to reshoot that. I think 3 times they had to reshoot that ending The original one, he said nothing and just snapped his hands or snapped his fingers, and then I forget what happened in the second one. But what did they say? They said the guy who edited the original Iron Man, when he was working on Endgame, and he saw that scene, and Thanos says, "I am." What does he say? Like
Inevitable.
I am. Yeah, I think he said the last thing he says, but I think he says, "I am inevitable," and then it pans over, and then the editor said out loud, just kind of like, repetitiously, I guess, he said, "And I am Iron Man," and then they said they had to like stop everything because they found the line, and that's what they were going to go with, and they had to like scramble to get Tony back in the suit, or get Robert Downey Jr. back in the suit, and come back to film that one line, and that's how they came about it. But I think coincidentally, where like, because they just threw up a green screen and shot it in some small, they didn't need to rebuild the entire set, they just did a little scene with him. And where they chose to film that scene was directly across the street from where he auditioned for the role originally. So it was like this like grand circular, like the original editor decided the final line. Robert Downey Jr. like right back to where he was, like where he started, like that type of thing. So very interesting. We'll have a link to that video, just straight to the Vanity Fair page, because that's really all it is a video. But yeah, very very interesting. I could just see Jon Favreau kind of having like a little freak out.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, that's his baby. He really made the MCU what it is because of what he did with Iron Man. So I don't blame him. I would have done the same thing. Crap, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably a bad one to ask, even in regards to like if that's a good way of ending that character. You know what I mean? Because I'm heavily selfish in that sense, where it's just like, no, I would much rather him just be like, all right, I'm done, and he just like disappears, and then once in a while he comes back as like a voice on the phone or a hologram, communicating, because he's just out. He's a consultant. He's back to his consultant. I would have been satisfied. It would have been like cozy, to know that he's at least like out there. But they took the more artsy approach, and it worked out. The Russo brothers know what they're doing. They got like a very like street savvy demeanor, but at the same time, like you could tell that they're making choices based on the profession, not like want and need. You know what I mean? Like they're respecting the roller coaster that they're fabricating for the audience. So. I respect their decision, but selfishly, it's like I still want Tony.
Yeah, me too.
So that's all I got. You got anything? You got anything else? We can do some Twitter rundown here. I got some other things.
Do you want to talk about the Tales of the Jedi?
So
I know you want to. Yeah.
So
why don't you start? Then I'll take over.
So I'm not talking, but I'm trying to track down a source for this information. But I ran across a tweet by an individual going by Twin Sun News on Twitter. They did clarify, saying that at Nurudo 1 and Ararakasosus first got the ball rolling on these leaks. I have no idea who these people are. They're just random names on the internet. They're not necessarily credible individuals. I know that's an issue with you in talking about this topic, is that these aren't necessarily reliable sources, although they come from places that once in a while have reliable leaks. But the story goes, Tales of the Jedi, which, to be honest, I have like no idea about whatsoever. I have no idea. Hold on.
Let me talk about that real quick. It was announced at Star Wars Celebration. It is a cartoon series. I think it's in the style of Clone Wars, if I remember right, but it's literally Tales of the Jedi. There's going to be several episodes with Qui-Gon being the focus, and several episodes of Ahsoka being the focus, from what I understand. There might be some other ones, but those are going to be the main focus. So that's the backstory of what this show is.
Okay. So I saw this, and it's like, damn, this is a lot of leaks that are just dropping right now. What's this all about, And, I posted it on our planning room. We have a room in our Discord that we collect, links throughout the week and kind of check out and just choose what we want to talk about. But This one, it says Tales. I'll just go over all the tweets here. Tales of the Jedi. Alert, alert. Thread. Everything we know. First one, the series will be made up of separate arcs such as Ahsoka's life, Dooku's turn to the dark side. There's nothing else. It was just those two. They put a comma, but they didn't, whatever. Ahsoka's arc. Ahsoka kidnapped by a bear in episode 1 and frees herself with the Force. Next leak, Clone Wars era episode with mullet Obi-Wan and TCW S1 hair Anakin. So long. What are they talking about? Season 1. Does he have like super long hair in season 1?
It's shorter hair.
Shorter?
Yeah. So, it's the Clone Wars season 1. So this is probably going to be very, very shortly after episode 2 if it's mullet Obi-Wan and short hair Anakin.
Damn, mullet Obi-Wan is Jesus Obi-Wan, right? That's Space Jesus? Is that the one in the picture? Yes.
Yeah, that's episode 2, Obi-Wan.
Praise Space Jesus. Yeah, I need that. Again, I've said it at least twice. I need that poster. Perfect size and framed in like an old lady like frame. And just like hung on my wall. So the next one here, Order 66 sequence is an extended scene from TCW Season 7, Episode 12, Victory and Death, in which Ahsoka and Rex fake surrender to ARC Trooper Jesse. Next leak, Ahsoka kills an Inquisitor and gets her lightsaber seen in Rebels. Yeah, she has I didn't see Rebels, and I don't recall there being a lightsaber swap for her, but doesn't she have like a green and a blue, and then it changes to whites when she's like no longer a Jedi or something? I forget.
Okay, so Ahsoka's lightsaber history. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the very first appearance of Ahsoka, she has one green lightsaber. Then she gets a smaller, Shoto style, like shorter lightsaber that is kind of like a lime green, almost yellow. And she has that for all of the Clone Wars, where she has lightsabers up until season 7, when she goes to Mandalore with Bo-Katan to take care of Maul, in which Anakin gives her 2 blue lightsabers. At the end of that season, she leaves the lightsabers behind as she and Rex fakes their death. With that, this is from comics. She kills a Inquisitor and takes the lightsaber crystals and cleanses the dark side out of them, and they become white crystals. And she forges her own lightsabers from there.
And those are the 2 slightly. Are they curved?
They are slightly curved,
and they're two different designs, if I'm not mistaken, right? One's like slightly longer, and the other one's like a little bit shorter. And
it's the same. Like
design,
standard style with then a Shoto
like
style.
Chrome and black, and they look good. And that's a
they look really
consideration good at Disney World, my friend.
They have those at Galaxy's Edge, and I think you can even order those online from the Disney store.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I'd still go custom saber, but the movie accurate. I'm just, I got the. I've bragged about it numerous times. I got my master replica sitting over there from 2000 and like whatever it was, like 2 or whatever.
Mine's better.
Some of the literally the first dope lightsabers to exist in circulation. Oof. I digress. Garrett here though is a skilled lightsaber craftsman. Having experience in the past and working on lightsabers. God, through some of these episodes, getting off the podcast and going and building lightsabers like a true nerd.
Of course I am, man.
So we got that. Next one is Dooku arc. Dooku becomes angry that Mace Windu is granted the rank of master before him, and so starts to see the Jedi as corrupt. Next one is Dooku explores the archives and is taken in by Sidious when he feels vulnerable over not becoming a master. So I mean, Anakin, essentially.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yaddle. Oh my god. Leave Yaddle out of this, dude. Leave Disney. Don't you dare. Yaddle becomes suspicious of Dooku after a Jedi Council member's dead body is found. She follows Dooku to the works of Coruscant, where he meets up with Sidious. Then the last.
Do you know what the works is?
Isn't it like an industrial?
Yes.
Yeah.
So At the very end of episode 2, when Dooku leaves Geonosis and goes and meets up with Sidious,
Mhm.
they have that shot of that really like reddish orange part of Coruscant.
Mhm.
That is the works.
So it's like their
So that's
forging area type thing.
kind of that like the Sith have their little secret base there.
Hmm. The last leak here is Yaddle asks Dooku why he is conspiring with the enemy, essentially figuring out that Sidious is the Sith Lord and that the Jedi have been looking for. Sidious tells Dooku to kill her, and he does after a lightsaber duel. Excuse me, excuse me, what? What did I just read? I didn't even read all of this. I just saw like the first half. That last one is out of pocket. That is not right. How dare they? Oh man, discuss.
So first off, I want to talk about some of the things that I think this person has right.
Well,
I think
disclose your speculation as to
okay.
regards to the validity of these statements to begin with, so that the audience understands that this is internet banter.
Yes.
And
So
you know,
at Star Wars Celebration, they did show some footage from Tales of the Jedi, in which we did see Ahsoka kind of go through like an aging montage of Ahsoka as a baby, Ahsoka as a teenager, and Ahsoka as an adult. Then we saw some stuff with Qui-Gon as well, and there has been other chatter, but it's been very, very minimal. And there's been no other official things other than it's coming out, I think, later this year. So this is kind of like a surprise thing that Disney's throwing at us, like just like a big bone thrown. Regardless, so there, some of the things that were hinted on in the footage from Disney or Star Wars Celebration is that there was going to be some stuff with her, like before she's a Jedi, and her getting picked up into the Order, and just some of that stuff. And I obviously with her as a teenager, we will see Anakin and like we'll see Obi-Wan most likely there. I think those are safe assumptions. I don't see. Okay, let me talk about this as well. There's been that all of these leaks are coming from Twitter and Reddit. Both of these places are notorious for just people spewing out like
trolling a bit.
Well, trolling or like taking something that they are piecing together from material that we've seen and material that we know, and trying to put together what they think is going to happen and calling it what will happen.
Yeah.
I think there is a possibility that this could be legit. There are a few things that make me don't believe that, and I'll talk about that when we hear in a minute.
Yeah.
So I as far as like a probability would say, I'd probably think this is 40% true, 60% false. So there's more things that are telling me that it's false than more things that are telling me that it's true.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously we need to take these people with a grain of salt. There's no actual like factual or not like true source. It's not, you know, a
well, like I said, this individual, I reached out to Twin Sons News, who I've seen pop up with some other information and articles and stuff like that in the past, and you know, I'm not necessarily like following these people as I'm following like the topic of Star Wars, Marvel, you know, these wide you know, spread out like umbrellas of information, and you can pick up little tidbits. And when I saw all this, it's like that's a lot of leaks for there not to be a source, you know. So I reached out and I asked, and he linked, you know, he gave me 2 like random Twitter accounts, and just clicking one now. This person does not have a profile pic. They do not have a banner. It seems like they have. It looks like they have some contact information for Discord, reaching out for anybody interested in sharing leaks. Not very much like information in regards to, you know, how they actually come across this information. It's just like, oh, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. And then the person being retweeted by this person is the other account that this person from the Twin Sons News account linked me. And this person basically has the same thing. Discord contact, you know, if you have any inside information on Star Wars projects, reach out. And like, it's also no banner picture. Their profile has a bunch of like, you know, blurry pictures, like cell phone pictures of some stuff from some cons. So, you know, your minor leaks, nothing like incredibly juicy. and certainly not something that I would consider like 100% credible source for this level of like leakage, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely people want to take that information with a grain of salt, but all in
Yeah.
all, I mean, I'm not 100% sure as to why it would be that big of a deal to say, you know, these are unsubstantiated claims, and you know, we're really hoping that some of this information is true. But why would it not be okay if it's not true? You know, like a bit of a defensiveness in regards to reaching out for a source. I think a lot of people, you know, when we're on Twitter, you know, we're reaching out to try to get information for the show. You know, and some people take it as if we're trying to undercut their argument or statement or claim by requesting a source, and it's like you always got to do that rigmarole of like, no, like I just need a source to quote. Can you just send me a source? And then they're just like, oh well, a lot of people are saying it on the internet, and it's like, okay, so like. Unfortunately, people don't go through that level of due diligence when reading these, skimming through these articles on their Twitter feed. But you'd be
Yep.
surprised how many of them are just kind of just random people talking and saying things, you know. So
Well, exactly, and it would be one thing if it was one of the other like known Star Wars sources where people do get leaked information,
mhm.
and that person confirms it, then says, "Hey, this is from a someone really close to the source. I can't say for their protection." Where like they have a history of reporting accurate things.
Yeah,
This is just some dude on Twitter.
and you do see these accounts. They're like the images they have are directly relating this topic. There is not an extensive history of credible leaks behind it, and there's
I mean, the pictures that they have are most likely from the ones that were shared at Celebration.
yeah, and they don't look original, you know. So you know, you got to be careful out here looking through these articles, and that's kind of why we have the podcast. You know what I mean? Because we do sift through them and try to figure out what's credible and things we leave out. Was, you know, most of the time we just don't find enough information to back up those claims and don't really want to spread it. However, in this case, I know you were reluctant to talk about it, but I do find it important to discuss, you know, the BS that's floating out there, and for people to be aware that a lot of this is just one person saying something and then thousands of people liking what they hear, and then just kind of, you know, it's like a bird chirp, you know, it's just like a wave. Yep. they all start chirping the same song, you know. So you got to be careful, but you know, you can resolve that issue by subscribing to our YouTube channel and our podcast and all that good stuff.
I think it is likely or extremely likely that we will see Obi-Wan and Anakin show up. I think it is unlikely that we will see that Order 66 sequence from the Clone Wars Season 7 like extended. That sequence from the Clone Wars is very well done. I don't know what information or what other information would be warranted recreating that in this show.
Well, if they shake the trees, they can get some member berries.
Yeah, but I don't. Like I said, that's extremely fleshed out already.
Yeah.
So I could see another Order 66 sequence, but not that one.
I mean, we just keep getting them though, you know. It's kind of nonstop by this point. Everything that's like everybody has this. It's almost like the linking factor now between all these stories is everybody has some type of experience with Order 66 or that war, you know, the end of it.
Yeah. I think it is possible that we can see Ahsoka kill the Inquisitor and get her lightsabers.
It'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a really epic fight because Ahsoka would not have a lightsaber at that moment. It would just be her and the Force and whatever weapon she can draw up.
A little bit of tidbit news too, by the way. Star Wars Legion saw a leak of some of an Ahsoka miniature being worked on at their studio. That might be coming to the series. And also, I believe the Inquisitor that you're talking about, I don't know her name, they're releasing that character as well, which we may need to start reporting on, because, you know, I have a high level of respect for miniature artwork painting, you know. I know you like to dabble as well. You know, for some listeners out there who might be interested in some of the tabletop games, maybe we'll have to keep an eye on new releases and announcements and stuff like that. So yeah, not to dwell on the Reddit gossip and do all that. You know, is there anything else you want to wrap up on the Ahsoka and Dooku leaks?
Yeah, with Dooku, I think it's going to be Qui-Gon focused and not Dooku focused. I could be wrong.
Mhm.
I think that it's very possible and likely that Dooku can be the source here, and like he gets angry with Mace Windu and everything. I just don't know.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I like those characters, but I just think they're
Yeah,
getting played
they're
to
great.
death, So it's like, we can move on now. We're good.
Um,
We got the summer
but
vacation special and the Christmas special. We're good.
yeah, I mean, I do think we will see Dooku, because I mean we're going to see Qui-Gon. I think it's likely that we will see Dooku as a Jedi.
Which
So
would kind of be cool. I mean, he
yeah,
still kind of gave off Jedi vibes when he was a Sith.
yeah, and it's because he truly never gave himself all the way to the dark side.
Yeah.
He dabbled in it because it was convenient, and he thought he was trying to help the galaxy, and not because like he was all the way into it. He was. I mean, he definitely got tricked and everything.
The way he died is so stupid too. Like, why wouldn't you not just be like, he's lying, that's Palpatine, he's a Sith Lord, he's a Sith Lord. Don't kill me, man. Do not chop my head off. That guy is the one responsible for everything.
Yep.
He didn't say anything. He just stood there and died.
Well, he was so surprised that
yeah, but still, like, that's your life. You'd freak, bro. Like, you'd freak. You wouldn't just be like, what? And then look at the guy about to chop your head off while he talks about the decision he has to make. It's like, why wouldn't you rebuttal and be like, okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the real deal. I just thought that was lazy.
He did trust Sidious a lot, and he was completely blindsided by what was going on with him and Anakin. Dooku was definitely blindsided by that, and he was completely surprised. I mean, then he was just like, well, it's done. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think it is unlikely that we will see Yaddle. If we see Yaddle, like that is bonkers to me.
We've lost. We've lost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't bring back Yaddle. Please leave out Yaddle. Edit her out. Leave her out of this. I don't want to see her die.
Well, yeah, we don't want to see her die.
I don't want to see her die. I don't want to know why she's not around anymore. Like, I don't need that.
Yeah. Well, and it was just my little hunch here. We got to make sure she's alive long enough at least, so we can have a Grogu.
To make a little baby Grogu, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's highly likely that Yoda and Yaddle produce Grogu.
We're gonna get a Yaddle and Yoda smash scene. Yeah, I agree.
Oh no, I don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that.
Nobody wants to do puppets. Oh my god.
No.
I saw Team America. Anyways, let's move on down. I got a few here, and to anybody, we're gonna wrap it up here, but head on over to our Twitter account. We like to like and retweet a bunch of interesting nerd news that pops up throughout the week, and like I said, some of them we swoop up and talk about here on the show, but a few others that we didn't talk about. I'm going to check off a few. Valve says many Steam Deck customers will get their units sooner than expected as supply chain shortfalls clear up and production increases. Brother-in-law has a Steam Deck, super sick. It's like a switch on crack, dude. Like, it's actually insane.
I've seen them, not in person, but I've seen reviews of them and everything about it. Like, they're pretty cool.
Yeah. Another one here. Last week they announced Light and Magic, a 6-part series about ILM, which started streaming on Disney Plus. Did you watch it?
I have not yet. My wife took a night shift last night, so we didn't have time to watch it.
I on top of watching all 6 of the Lord of the Rings films, I did have an opportunity to watch all 6 episodes of this ILM series, and
they dropped all of it at one time.
Yeah, it's
nice.
Very good. There's so much George in it. there's so much George. George is being interviewed so much in that. I love it.
Yeah. Well, do you know why it's so good?
It's made by Lawrence Kasdan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, which is getting him back in the mix of everything, and
I mean, he's been in the mix.
Well, I mean, wasn't he the one that?
So he wrote the original script, or at least the screenplay for Solo.
Yeah.
Then there was the 2 brothers that made like the Lego movie that were working on the Solo project. They are the ones that got booted and shunned from Star Wars because they were making it extremely goofy instead of a little bit more serious, which you would want from a Han Solo thing. Because I mean
he's the
there's
comedic
Solo.
Relief, like, they understood that he was kind of the goofier characters of all the serious characters.
Han Solo is serious in a way that there's goofiness to it, and the way he delivers lines.
He's
It's
cocky.
not.
Yeah, he's cocky.
Yeah, he's
and
cocky.
arrogant. You know,
And it's so he's funny, kind of ironically, and not
situational humor and stuff like
exactly, and
Mhm.
not because of goofy crap, which was what they were trying to pull.
that. Yeah.
So
I will say though that this Lawrence Kasdan did like a fantastic job at making the series.
Yeah.
If you are into knowing how they did what they did, you know, I saw series in the past where they go over like sound and music and stuff like that, but this is ILM, and they're managing of creating new technologies to give George what he wanted. I mean, you know, they go through all the business history, and they kind of gun it through the last like decade of ILM. They definitely hit on Mandalorian. They talk about
I mean, they would
the
have to
volume.
with Mandal. Yeah,
Yeah,
about to say like
They
that
talk
is
about all that stuff.
revolutionary.
Super good. Like they show all the like the little ins and outs of the motion capture that they did for the original films. It's all original footage from back then, and you know, George on the set, and Coppola you know, talking about how he you know, gave George the bet to make a comedy that he ended up making. What was it called? Oh, American Graffiti.
Oh yeah.
You know, which allowed him the funds and the clout to proceed with making Star Wars. Which, you know, you get some other entries in there as well that ILM has worked on. They did some footage of like Star Trek, and you know, they talked. It was mainly Star Wars. They're talking about the differences of how they build things and stuff like that. So if you're into like the Adam Savage type of, you know, background info type of thing, like this is like right up your alley, because it's all about the technical aspects of ILM, and they are super crazy at what they do.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, going over here, not too much more. There was some, you know, I got the summer special for Disney Plus in there, but they've made some announcements about well, not made some announcements, but there's been some rumors and some murmurs about Rockstar and Grand Theft Auto 6, and it being a female, possibly a female protagonist, and would take place in Miami and stuff like that. And then you get the slew of online scum that comes in and just starts rattling off a bunch of sexist stuff, and you know, it's like, it's a whatever, like it's just a campaign, you know, like I'm sure online you'll be able to make whatever you want, you know what I mean? Like there are some rumors about that. There was also, and we mentioned it not too long ago, didn't even know, but it's 30-year anniversary of the death of Superman was a few days ago. Definitely could have mentioned that in our DC catch-up, that we're almost 30 years away from when that comic dropped, which was a huge reinvention of DC in the 90s. They kind of did it as a last-ditch effort, you know, and then just kind of references to other small things, you know, regarding like the multiverse saga and things like that we've linked on our Twitter. So a pretty dead week in regards to news. I don't know, I showed you that Darth Vader, was it Hot Toys figure?
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, super good. Definitely check that out on the Twitter too if you're into collecting like tabletop pieces. It's probably one of the most detailed. You can't get too detailed with a Vader figure like that, but they dumped so much detail into just like half of the face because of how damaged it is and stuff like that, that it's at least worth checking out, you know. So
I mean, Hot Toys, they affiliate. What's with the other company that does a whole bunch of really good stuff?
Square Enix?
No.
Your Sideshow.
Yeah, they are a Sideshow affiliate, so they put in so much work into that stuff.
Sideshow is like my wizards, you know what I mean? It's like film nerds. They admire like ILM type deal, you know, which I do too. But when it comes to like what I do, oh, Sideshow is like the pinnacle. You know, they do such like amazingly perfect work. It's kind of disgusting. But yeah, definitely check it out. Head on over to our Twitter. And last little tidbit here is that Rick and Morty season 6 premieres September 4th. Have you ever seen Rick and Morty? Did you ever watch Rick and Morty?
Yes.
Yes.
I love Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty it's very funny. I haven't watched season 5 yet, but you know, I definitely, you know, when I'm doing dishes,
it's controversial.
It is. Oh, I've heard. I heard it's also a little weird and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but they also had other projects that they were working on that diligently. The guys over at Red Letter Media actually did some voice acting for one of their more recent games. I can't recall the name because they're all so weird. But they
Yeah.
have that VR game also too, and I think what's his name does some voice acting and some other stuff. So
Yeah, season 5 is controversial. Like, I mean, Rick and Morty, the show, is controversial just because of everything that it entails. But
yeah,
season 5 is pretty controversial. I liked it. I thought it was fun. They the a lot of fans were asking for very specific things to happen, and they did it in the most awkward and roundabout way they possibly could. And it was at like kind of the very end of the season, and like people were really upset because it wasn't happening. Then it did happen. There was so much.
I mean, I don't watch it in any serious sense. Like I just flip
Well,
on
no,
Rick and
I
Morty, and
don't
I watch.
either.
I'm just saying people the way they like react and like it's like South Park, like oh this is a very like risque season, and it's like no, dude, it's just like South Park. I kind of get that with like Rick and Morty too. It's like anything they do would be like oh it's just Rick and Morty, because he's so random and like drunk all the time.
Yeah.
It's like it's gonna be random, so. I don't know. I'm a fan. Like I said, I like to flip that on in the living room when I'm doing like dishes and stuff like that, or cleaning and stuff like that. It's always fun to have that blaring in the background.
Yeah.
And one extra tidbit for Fantastic Four fans out there, Kevin Feige recently told THR the Fantastic Four won't be an origin story. Quote,
Good.
a lot of people know this origin story. A lot of people know the basics. How do we take that and do something we've never done before or never seen before? I like that origin story. I think that was kind of goofy in the other two movies. I mean, the first one, the original films, the Jessica Alba ones and Chris Evans and stuff like that. I believe that was pretty accurate. As to whether Doom was up there, I'm not sure. Yada yada. I know there was a lot wrong with those films, so I'm not gonna like hold them to any type of higher caliber, but. It'd be nice to have like a Marvel level origin story. At the very least, have some type of flashback or footage or something like that that's played in the episode, Or
Yeah, I get that, but I just want to put this out there. I'm glad that this is like the first time they're not just doing a complete origin story. Because, I mean, that's what they've done for almost every single character, that there's been some type of origin story. And it's just like, I feel like it's going to be refreshing just to come into it and see them kind of like already established. I think that's going to be nice and a good change of pace, and not just the same thing that they've done in the past. I mean, I don't know what other character is where we see that really.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you can argue Thor is pretty much the same thing, where we see him like full powers, then get a retroactive thing going on in the first Thor movie. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. No.
Yep.
So we're gonna wrap it up here. This is the end of the episode where we do our typical little plug for all of our social media out there: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch. Actually, we're doing some live streams recently. It's gonna tone down a little bit, probably like 1 or 2 shows a week for an hour or two. But we've been doing some Marvel Avengers, and I did a Lego build for the Infinity Gauntlet.
That looks really good,
days.
by the way.
Yeah, I like that. It's super nice. But yeah, just random stuff, random nerdy things that we like to share. So head on over Nerd Chatter Show. Like I said, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter. Like I said, this entire episode, we like to gather up the articles and stories and stuff like that, and feed them on to the people that follow. So head on over there and give us a follow. You can find all of our episodes of the Nerd Chatter Podcast anywhere you can find podcasts, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We have us, on YouTube if you're listening to us here on YouTube. And pretty much everywhere else. If you're interested in becoming a part of the community, you can join our Discord or head on over to our Patreon, where we have Patreon-specific content for our supporters. We do like extra segments and stuff like that. We're kind of gathering them up until we get some people over there. But we have a little backlog of discussions and stuff that we're going to be able to share with the community once it starts building up over there. So head on over there, maybe check it out. Other advanced news and segment confirmations and stuff like that gets leaked out to people over there as well. If you're on YouTube, the links for everything that we've talked about is in the description below. Mostly everything we talked about. If you listen on any of the podcast platforms, you can head on over to our website, nerdchatter.com, and you'll be able to find any of the links that you'd be interested in. Garrett, another week down. This is our 7th episode. Thank you for joining me once again.
Of course.
And I think we're gonna go ahead and call it there. Everybody, and I truly mean this. Make sure you go on over to Epic Game Store and you pick up your free copy of Lawn.
No. Don't do it. Just go outside and mow your lawn, people. Whatever.
All right, guys. Wait.